If I'm practicing Stoicism, I would say the past is finished. The future is unknowable. Leave anxieties about the future alone. They solely exist in your imagination. You can only act in the present. Except my job is managing projects. How am I supposed to be a good project manager if the past is the past and the future is unknowable? Let's talk about it. Welcome to It's Monday. What's Jonathan thinking? Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of It's Monday. What's Jonathan thinking? I've been bringing you on a journey of how my mind processes things of late. And to that, thank you for supporting me on both on LinkedIn and on YouTube. This show, it's becoming a little like the stage to a stand-up comic. It's the place where I work things out in my head, except you get to be part of that mental process. I think the writing process involved in putting this show together is my forced weekly mindfulness exercise, my forced time to reflect on my life and the world. Sometimes I've taken this moment to reflect on what has contributed to my recent professional success. And then there are times like today where I find myself reflecting on the things that aren't going so well or should be going better. And that has been somewhat a theme for the last two episodes. In these moments where I can't seem to control what's going on, I turn to others to fill in the gap for maybe something I don't know or some tool, in the Franklin Covey speak, that I need to sharpen. With some of my projects going sideways on me, I've returned back to the fundamental skills of project management, which of course prompts me to return back to my personal guru, Shankar Vedantam from Hidden Brain, and his interview with philosopher William Irvine, where they talked about Stoicism, which brought me to Amazon, a very dangerous place for me, which brought me to this book, even more dangerous, The Beginner's Guide to Stoicism, Tools for Emotional Resilience and Positivity by Matthew J. Van Natta. And this brings you up to date on how we got to this moment where I'm searching for some guidance that may help me face the challenges in front of me maybe a little differently. Stoicism seems to be the thing I keep coming back to. It establishes that through achieving a healthy mental life, you can find positivity and resilience in any situation. It further establishes three disciplines that govern the Stoic's life: the discipline of desire, the discipline of action, and the discipline of assent. The discipline of desire encourages us to want only what we have. Epictetus, one of the early Stoic philosophers, believed this was the most important practice. He says, to develop consistent happiness, you must train yourself to desire only what you can always have and fear only what you can always avoid. How does this tie to mastering delivery? Well, to use the words of Donald Rumsfeld, former Secretary of Defense under George W. Bush, you go to war with the army you have. On any project, there are instances where we realize that we may not have everything we need to be successful. We may not have all the expert skill sets. We may not have all the requirements. We may wish that someone tied up on another project could be available for this one. Focusing on what we do have grounds us. It enforces gratitude for what we do have and reminds us that our jobs as leaders is to help our teams grow beyond their current capabilities. To put Mr. Rumsfeld's quote another way, if you don't have the army you want, what can you do with the army you have? Again, focus on the present and you will influence the future, but you can't influence the future by thinking about the future. I hope that makes sense. The discipline of action is focused on the virtue of justice. It calls us to take actions with something Stoicism calls the reserve clause, which I'll get back to in a minute. Further, it calls on us to choose actions that benefit both yourself and others. Let me repeat this one. Choose actions that benefit both yourself and others. And finally, it calls on us to develop a healthy value system that frees us to take just actions. Let's get back to the reserve clause. This is the reserve clause. It says, I will weed my garden this afternoon if nothing prevents it. This is a remarkably agile mindset if you think about it. It basically says plan with the best of intentions. Do so for sure, but do so knowing that outside forces can sometimes impact what you're trying to accomplish. Something like that happened this week. We were trying to demo an aspect of our application to some business users, but there was an unplanned outage in an area of the application that we don't control. What can you do? Nothing. A Stoic would acknowledge that in that situation, there's nothing you can do. No need to get angry or frustrated. No need to yell or get moved in any way. Be indifferent to the things that you can't control. I'm not saying that's easy to do, but your blood pressure will thank you if you can master it. Dr. Greg Usher of the RPS Group, in his article, The Stoic's Guide to Project Management, offers this tie into the discipline of action. He reminds us that the agile mindset of servant leadership is very much tied to this discipline of action. This is the centering component of leadership that calls us to remember that we are here to serve our projects, not the other way around. He says we, even as the leaders of our little project empire, are only here temporarily. One day the project will be finished, all the construction will be done, all the finances will be reconciled, and the project team will cease to exist. For all intents and purposes, our role as the emperor of this particular project will be gone forever. Stoicism advocates that the sooner we realize the harsh reality of this, the quicker we can be of actual service. And this is the discipline of action. Finally, the discipline of assent. Again, referring to Epictetus, he tells us that people feel disturbed not by things, but by the views they take on them. The discipline of assent centers on paying attention to that mental space. It calls upon you to stop and think about your response before you respond. Don't allow instinct and habit to run your life. There's a story of a Stoic teacher who was traveling by boat when a huge storm threatened to capsize the ship and drown the crew. A fellow passenger noticed the Stoic got pale just like everybody else, but unlike the rest, he never showed fear. After the storm ended, the passenger questioned the Stoic. He said, "It looked like you were frightened. I saw your face get pale. Isn't that against your teaching?" And the Stoic explained that our initial reactions aren't up to us. They are natural responses to a sudden event. What Stoicism had taught that teacher, though, was to only accept the fact that a storm was happening. Other thoughts, such as, "This is dangerous," or "We're going to drown," he never accepted, instead choosing to focus on keeping everyone afloat. Learning to guide your thought process in this way will allow you to put stresses aside and focus your energy, again, on what you can control. How does this tie to project management? Well, ultimately, project success is not necessarily achieved by people working alone. More often than not, they are finished by groups of people choosing to work together to achieve some objective. And if you are in a delivery manager or a project management role, your teams are looking to you for leadership, to be that straight face in the eye of the storm. They're looking to you for growth, to set the tone for how the team should work together. And if you lash out, this will become an accepted practice within the team. And soon team members will lash out at each other. If you react emotionally to everything, then your team will adopt this as an acceptable practice. You are the leader and people are following you, just like that teacher on the boat. So mind what you want people to follow. Choose to exhibit the behavior you want to see in others. Well, this is a lot. Let's recap a bit. Stoicism is a useful practice for channeling mindfulness into positive and healthy living. And the Stoic project manager is the leader who can figure out how to use the discipline of desire to work with the team they have to get the job done. They can use the discipline of action to guide their own behaviors towards being a transformational leader who people want to work for and with. They seek justice in everything they do and remember to live in the present. And finally, they can channel the discipline of assent towards improving their own leadership style by not allowing their natural response to stimuli to steep into their leadership. Stuff is going to go wrong on projects. It's just going to happen. There's literally nothing that can be done to prevent this. But how we respond to that, that's entirely in our control. Be the Stoic teacher on that ship. Scared, because that's natural, but still in control. These are my thoughts for this Monday morning. Thank you for tuning in today, and I'll see you next Monday for another episode of It's Monday. What's Jonathan thinking?